Okay, thank you everybody for coming. On behalf of the Murrieta Valley Historical Society, we'd like to welcome you all. Today, we'll be doing, my wife Annette's going to be doing a presentation on the Sotello family. So Annette's been a resident of Murrieta all her life. She's a founding member of the Murrieta Historical Society, and she's the director of the museum. So before we get started, a few introductions. Jeffrey Harmon, president of the Historical Society.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Kathy Price, board member. Pam, board member. Myself, Connie. So that's the board here. So a few family members that are here today. Robert, his wife Barbara in the back there. Anna, who is Annette's sister's daughter. Daughter Ashley, granddaughter Jessie, and son-in-law Mike. So on that note, thank you all again for coming, and we're going to get started. So,
if you have questions afterwards,
yep.
Let's answer at the end of this, and then we can ask Robert, Anna, everybody, if you have any other questions that you've heard from here. All right. This is the story of my grandparents, Jesse and Elohio Sotello, and how they came to Murrieta, and the Sotello family's 120-year legacy here in Murrieta. Both my grandparents' family were from the state of Guanajuato, Mexico. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
A little louder. You are soft speaking.
Sorry, come in. And Guanajuato is in central Mexico and is primarily a mining and agricultural area. And that's where, on the map, where Guanajuato is. The Sotello family was from Panama, and my grandma's, Jesse's family, the Chavezes, were near Terra Negra, and had long family history in the area. And that's where she's from. So I'm going to tell you real quick a family story that was told to me by my grandma and how my grandma and my grandpa met. So where she's from, she lived on a rancho. So she had to go and walk to the watering well to get water to go to home, right? Well, one day this guy came in on his horse, all dressed up, you know, really rico suave, and started talking to her. And so they started getting a little friendship going, and so that was it. Well, later, she was back there again, here he comes again. So that went on a little bit. So then on one day he came in and he says, I'm just saying goodbye to you because I'm leaving. And she goes, oh, okay, well, nice meeting you, you know, all that kind of stuff. So then he says, but I want to shake your hand before I go because I'm going to miss you. So she says, okay. So she reaches up by the horse to get his hand, and he grabbed hers. He grabbed her and threw her on the back of the horse and took her to his hacienda, kidnapped her. Well, when that happens, you can no longer go back to your family. You are disowned. That's it. So they got married there. They had like a week wedding celebration as a tradition that they do. So that's how they met. That's the story my grandma told us. My brother interviewed her in 1991 on video, asked her the same question, and she's all giddy. Oh yes, oh that. So read it as you may. It could be he kidnapped her, or maybe she was a willing party, because after the video, we're like, how true was that story? So, that's how they met. That's the story of both. Both families were heavily impacted by the Mexican Revolution from 1900 to 1925, with the worst action occurring during 1910 to 1920. The Revolution President, Diaz's army, and rebel army led by peasant General Pancho Villa fought in this area. This revolution ruined the economy and infrastructure in Guanajuato state and prompted many residents to flee Guanajuato for the U.S. One of the bloodiest battles in Mexican history was fought in Celaya, Guanajuato state. not far from Pejimo in April 1915, causing much damage to the area. Pancho Villa's army was decimated and he fled north. He lost much of his political power and was reduced to bandit-type activities in the northern part of Mexico until the end of the revolution in 1920. Pancho Villa also returned into the U.S. and he was angered at the U.S. support for his rival Carranza. And there's a bunch of history on him. This is Pancho Villa. He was the peasant general and had 30,000 men under his command. In 1920, he was given amnesty by interim President de la Huerta. Pancho Villa was assassinated in 1923 at the age of 45. Members of the National Army under Diaz and the peasant revolutionary armies under Pancho Villa and other peasant general preyed upon the local population for supplies such as food, horses, and other materials to be used with their army, to help support their armies. There was also reports of bandits from the mountains, as they were known to also steal gold, silver, liquor, and young girls. So, growing up, we all heard, all our family heard, that we always wondered why my grandma Jessie would never let us go after dark out to the outhouse. And as kids, we laughed about it, like, why? We have to go to the bathroom. Let's go to the outhouse. Nope, we can't go. So after listening to an interview that my brother did in 1991, I heard the real story of bandits in the mountains. Grandma Jessie had to live in fear for being kidnapped by the bandits in the mountains, which were actually soldiers that would steal young girls, so she had to hide from them. She did say, or they will take us. This is why she never let us go out to the outhouse or outside after dark. She didn't want the bandits from the mountains to take us, because if you look in back of their property, those were the mountains that she would see every day. So that's why we could never go to the outhouse. Juan Murrieta was my grandfather. Was my grandfather's older brother. Was born in 1899 in Guanajuato, Mexico. He was the first Sotello to come to Murrieta. Juan married Maria, known as Mary Carrillo, in 1910. In the 1910 census, he was a boarder with Telefio Peter's family here in Murrieta. It was known Juan went back to Mexico and returned in 1917 and helped briefly at the Warner Springs Ranch with the Cowboys. In 1920, Juan worked as a laborer, and in 1930, he was self-employed farmer living on Ivy Street here in Murrieta. Juan married Mary Carrillo. They had 3 children, Marcelino, Antonio, known as Tony, and Manuela Georgia, known as Georgia. In 1925, we went back to Mexico. He went back to Mexico to bring his brother's wife, Jessie, and daughter, Mary, to Murrieta. Juan died in 1930 and is buried in Oxnard, California. This is his immigration card passing from Mexico to El Paso, Texas. His card states, immigrant for permanent resident, also known as the green card. In 1925, he came across the border in El Paso legally. Folklore and some oral history had Juan in Murrieta in 1905. And in 1918, Juan was in Murrieta looking for ground for property for the ranch. My grandfather, Elohiel, had to have a quarantine card before entering the U.S. on August 4th, 1922. He had to have the United States Public Health Service card at the age of 26. He had to be deloused, bathed, vaccinated, clothing and baggage disinfected. Once that was completed, he was able to leave the U.S. border quarantine area. He had to pay $8 for that. And he did cross also El Paso, Texas, into there. Our grandfather, Elohio, was born in 1897 in Guanajuato, Mexico. He married Jessie Chavez in 1921 in Mexico. Elohio arrived in California in 1922. Elohio came from a hacienda in Guanajuato, Mexico. Haciendas are large estates, extensive land holdings with diverse agricultural production. Haciendas are also known to be grand and elaborate with large courtyards. They have a large workforce, including resident help. Once in Murrieta, he began to farm in the valley. He had a harvester and ranch hands to farm the lands in the valley. This is my grandma Jessie. Jessie Chavez was born in July 1904. She was from Pejamo, Mexico. She was raised on a rancho near Terra Negra. A rancho is typically smaller and focuses on livestock like cattle and sheep for food source and for hides. Ranchos are often specialized in cowboy culture. On their rancho, they also grew flaxseed plants to make linseed oil and edible seeds. It was used to make fiber for linens, clothes, and rope. They also grew chickpeas, vegetables, and fruit. Jessie's immigration card was in September 28, 1925. Elohio and Jessie had Maria Luciana Teresa Sotello. She was known as Mary and was born in 1922 in El Rosario, Mexico. They had another son in Mexico who had died as an infant. His name was Augustine. Alice was born in Long Beach in 1928. Fred Sotello was born in 1926 at home by a midwife. Arthur, known as Art, was born in 1932 at home by a midwife. The midwife in the area at that time was Ma Buchanan. Once Jessie arrived in Murrieta with daughter Mary, Elohio had already started his farming. He started buying the property the ranch is on. He then started working in the silica mine. Later, in 1940, after he got sick, son Fred had to quit school to help on the ranch and started to purchase the surrounding property from Walter Cooper for $20 a month. My grandmother, when she asked how she was treated once she got here in Murrieta, and she said everybody was very nice. And her close friend was Hale Kern. So real quick, here's my grandma, my grandpa. This is my Aunt Mary, Grandma Alice, Fred, and that's Arthur. The Sotello family did some custom hay baling. They harvest oats, barley, and grain. They also raise rabbits and chickens to send to the markets in San Diego, Riverside, and to local markets. They sold the fur from the rabbits and sold eggs. They grew several food sources from their garden. Garlic was their specialty, and they also made wine. Wow. From 1924 to 1932, our grandfather worked as a miner doing drilling and blasting for Urban Tidewater and George Philo at the silica mine. They trucked the silica to the grain elevator platform. Silica was shipped to LA and used for glazing pottery. From all the contaminated dust, and in those days they had no respiratory protection gear, this is why he suffered from silicosis in his lungs. The mine was located on Antelope Road and closed in 1933. Flooded after it closed. It was used as a swimming hole. After that, people started to dump their cars in the mine shaft. Later, a developer had to use a crane to pull them all out for a housing tract that is located on this property. So as you can see, this is where it flooded, and the kids would swim in that, even though it's contaminated. And this is them dumping their old cars, and then this is them get the crane, and they're all down in that area. Jessie and Sotello had 5 children. Okay. After our grandfather became sick and couldn't work, but he kept going, he made his own wheelchair from Model T tires and wood he had on the ranch. He managed the books for the ranch, which included payroll for the ranch hands, expenses, incomes, and the household finance. And he was able to help with the garden upkeep. Their children, Mary, Alice, Fred, and Art, helped with the rest, and our grandmother, Jessie, did the cooking for the family and ranch hands, as well as taking care of her husband, the kids, house, and chores. Mary and Alice also cooked, cleaned, and got odd jobs. Fred helped with the harvesting and the ranch hands. Art helped with caring and training of the horses for the ranch. So during this presentation, you're going to hear all 3 different houses. This is their first house, right here. This is Ivy Street, right there. And as you can see, we tried to salvage the wheelchair. So they had 5 children. So I'm going to name them real quick. This is Mary. This is her high school graduation picture. This is my mom, Alice, Uncle Fred. And this is in the Arcadia books of Murrieta, this picture. And there's Uncle Fred, my mom, Alice, and Uncle Art, and they were camping in Idlewild. The homestead was located on Ivy Street and New Clay. New Clay was where the railroad tracks was, and it was built behind their property. The first house burnt down in 1948. Now that was the first picture I showed you in the previous one. The fire was an accident. Our dad, Ray, wanted to keep the house warm after their son Robert was born in September of '48. As winter was approaching October 1st, 1948, Ray took his kerosene can to the gas station for kerosene for the stove, but the service station attendant accidentally put gas in the can that caused the heater to catch fire.
Oh, geez.
They all got out, and since Elohio was wheelchair bound, they were able to get him out with help. They lost everything, including photos and their documents. They only had what they were wearing the night of the fire. When the Murrieta Volunteer Fire Department arrived, they were unable to save the house. The Sotello family had to move into the bunkhouse. After that, the Murrieta Volunteer Fire Department and the Writers Club had a benefit dance to raise money to help build the second house. After years of living in the house, it was well insulated. So Fred wasn't insulated very good. So Fred decided to build another house with the help of my brother Robert. He made the plans for the third house. Robert made sure it was safe and made sturdy. So sturdy that a few years ago, there was, real quick, these 3 houses is the second house. And it had water tank, windmill, and all this stuff right here. This is the third house. So a few years ago, there was a high-speed chase down Ivy, which is right in here. This is 3rd Street, right in here. There was a fire hydrant on 3rd Street. So after when the chase was going on, the car they were chasing hit the fire hydrant, launched to the corner of this building, of the house right here, and then continued to go, stuck out there somewhere. But the house had been sold, so the new house owners were there. They had a young daughter, and this is the living room right there, kitchen window here. The side here is my grandma's bedroom and part of the living room here. The young girl who was living there with her parents always wanted to sleep in the living room on the couch with her, I think her dog. And that night, she decided, I'm gonna go to my bedroom. So she went to my grandma's old bedroom. So when this hit, it would have hit right where her couch was during that. So our little, thought was my grandma was her angel. Angel told her to get back into it. And because of Robert's, he made it almost tornado-proof, basically. And because he wanted to make sure it was safe for grandma, and he sure did. And that family appreciates him every day they see him. After the fire and cleanup was completed, the family started to build the second house. Fred is screening sand to make concrete and build a house out of cinder block. Mary, shown on the picture, was his supervisor. Without the help of the community, this house would have taken a longer time to get rebuilt. And as you can see, there's my Aunt Mary being her supervisor, and he's looking at her like, what the heck, come help me. But that's our Aunt Mary, she's a good. The family had used an old railroad boxcar as a bunkhouse to house the ranch hands while they were harvesting. After the fire in '48, the family had to move into the boxcar until they built the new house. Later on, it was torn down to clean up the property. The whole family came out to help with the project. So the bunkhouse, this was where they lived after the fire. And that's what it looked like when we started tearing it down. And here's all our family. Grandma Jessie was also able to work with the Work Project Administration, known as the WPA. The WPA was a government program implemented by President Roosevelt to help women whose husband could not work. The WPA sewing program taught women how to sew using modern equipment to do large-scale production of clothes like nightwear, jackets, trousers, overalls, baby clothes, outerwear for women and girls, bedding, and other soft goods. There was 1,158 families from this program were in Riverside County alone. Riverside County had 10 WPA sewing rooms or factories set up by the late 1935. Included one in Elsinore, where it was set up in the old cannery building on Spring Street, but may have been in the old city hall for a time. The women earned $48 per month to work 6 hours a day, 5 hours a week. No, opposite. 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. The program ended by mid-1941 because of World War II. Jessie had worked at the one in Elsinore. She was able to help the family during the time. So here's another story. So my grandma is working at the sewing factory, and all these women go to break and talk. There was another lady from Elsinore, Wildemar area. Her last name was Chavez too, like my grandma. And she's asking, are we related? And she's like, I don't think so. He said, because I'm getting letters in Elsinore from family in Mexico. So could it be yours? And she says, well, my family's still in Mexico. And so the next day, she brought the letters, and my grandma started reading them, and they were her family looking for my grandma. It wasn't her dad or her mom or her sister. It was cousins and their family. So they got to connect, and yeah, we still see some of the kids, younger generation. But it was just awesome that by working with this, she was able to get stuff from her family, and they went back and forth to visit on visiting permits and stuff like that.
That's goosebumps. I know about it too.
So Mary, my aunt, worked with her sister Alice at the King's Cafe, which was located on Ivy Street. Mary had her immigration card and later became a naturalized citizen. She married Bob Cruz and made their home in Montebello. She worked for the Catalina clothing factory and then went to work for the post office that was located inside the Woolworth store. Mary and Bob moved back to Murrieta after they retired. Mary passed in 2013. Mary was the only child to attend and graduate from Elsinore High School in 1942. They had no children. Fred also served in the Army in Korea from 1955 to 1956. Fred helped with the family ranch, later worked and retired in the Riverside County Road Department, and had his own business offering weed abatement with his tractor while caring for his mother Jessie at their home on Ivy Street. Fred loved to dance, and every weekend he would head up to Anza, VFW, to do so. He was an avid hunter and fisherman. He passed in 2003. He had no children. So in this picture is my Uncle Art, there's my Uncle Fred, my dad, my Uncle Bob, who's married to Mary, and my brother, who's sitting right over there. My mother had to quit school after 8th grade to take care of her father and siblings. Alice got a part-time job with her sister Mary at King's Cafe on Ivy Street. She always told us about when she got to serve the Duke, John Wayne, a hamburger. She was underage and wasn't allowed to go out to the front counter, but they did let her take him his hamburger. She worked as a housekeeper for the Tarwater and Blake family, where she told us they were very good to her and later stayed on as close friends. Ray and Alice married in 1947. She volunteered with the Ground Observer Corps, which I have a little display there with her stuff. Alice was an active member with the PTC and a charter member of the Murrieta Garden Club for 47 years. She made sure that during the Murrieta Garden Club's annual Thanksgiving dinner, she would take Thanksgiving plates to those who were housebound and couldn't come. Alice was very patriotic, enjoyed her family and community. Alice passed away in 2020. And again, there's my mom. That's her with the Field of Honors over here at Townsboro Park. That's my mom and my dad on their wedding day, and my grandpa Hill in the car. As you can see, the box car back here, and there's my grandpa in the wheelchair that he made. There's my dad with little baby Robert. And again, my mom just loved, she was just so patriotic. Ray and Alice had 3 children, Robert, Loretta, and Annette. 5 grandchildren, 8 great-grandchildren, and 1 great-great-granddaughter who was named after her. 9 family members, including spouses, served our country. So, here we go. Mom, and there's my dad, Robert and Lori. This is at the Murrieta Grammar School on 2nd Street and A, and there's Robert. They all gathered there to do their model airplanes, and they flew that. So the grammar, yeah. So this would be 2nd Street. This is my sister Loretta and her best sheep ever, Blackie. And this is our family portrait that was in 1968.
We all have one of those.
And my dad, Loretta, Robert, my mom, and there's me. And there's me and my little dolly. So these are all my mom's grandkids. This is Anna, Thomas, Ashley, Scott, and Nathaniel. And the reason why they're holding these pies is any special occasion, holidays, every one of these, including us, expected the homemade pudding pies. So they all do, we just all know when we get those. Uncle Art married Ramona Samaniego in 1956. Art helped with the ranch horses for farming as a young boy. He competed in roping and gymkhana and traveled the horse circuit. Art worked as a chrome plater on Ivy Street where the Murrieta Day Spot is now, and later retired from Point Wayne as a chrome plater. Art and Ramona had 2 daughters, Lorraine and Virginia, who took after him for the love of horses. He had 4 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren. He passed away September 2018. And as you can see, he's at his arena right there doing the gymkhana. There's their marriage picture. There's my Uncle Art later, son-in-law. This is my cousin Virginia, and this is my cousin Lorraine. And there's him working his horse out on the ranch. You can see the water tower here. This is Ivy, and over here is New Clay. And then this is my cousin Virginia and Lorraine. My mom had another tradition. She embroidered tea towels for everybody. So every time she saw somebody, they all get a tea towel. Jessie loved to go to the riverbed and let her kids play in the sand. Jessie had told us stories, in her words, that the hobos at Gypsy would get off the train and spend the night in the riverbed with the campfire.
Yep.
Alice and Fred would go down to the riverbed and see what they had left behind. The train went behind their back property of the ranch. When the train went by the property, the engineer would throw oranges to Alice and Fred, and they thought those oranges was the best ever. Jessie made homemade tortillas, and the local kids would stop by to get a fresh hot tortilla with butter. She worked picking olives on Ivy Street, apricots in Lake Elsinore and Hemet. She was proud of her garden too. Her favorite TV show was boxing, As the World Turned soap opera, and later on telenovelas, which is the Mexican version of soap operas. As you saw earlier, she worked for the WPA, but also was a midwife briefly and a medicine woman. She loved her apricot brandy, and when we all asked her, "Why do you drink that, Grandma?" her reply was, "I just like apricots." Jessie also has a great-great-granddaughter named after her, too. So, Tony Sotello was one of the children of Juan Sotello, and Maria Carrillo was from Paula Reservation. Tony was Jessie's nephew. Tony was born in 1916 at the age of 10. From 1926 to 1927, after Maria passed away, Juan enrolled Tony into a non-residential Sherman Institute in Riverside, where he spent the year of attending there. Tony tried to live with his father, Juan, as a single father couldn't care for him at that time. According to the record files, which is right up in there, it states, Tony wasn't getting proper home training. After he got back to the Sotello Ranch in 1927, he worked on the ranch, picked watermelon and other produce. He served in World War II as a private in the 2020 Ordnance Maintenance Company. He married Georgia Ardrea from Pechanga Reservation. Tony passed away in 1968 and buried in the Murrieta Cemetery with his wife Georgia and his mother Maria. Tony had two other siblings, and my mom lost track way back. All we know is they're probably in the Ventura County. That's all we know. People often asked if we ever had if we had a family reunion, like picnics, go to the beach or parks. I usually say no, not really, but what we did have was a pit barbecue, where you barbecue in the ground. We had it around the 4th of July holiday because it was around our grandma Jessie's birthday. We invited our family and close friends, which ended up around 80 people. My Uncle Fred, Uncle Art, and my dad would dig a large pit, a 6x6x6, in my grandma's backyard. Once it was dug and cleaned out, and they would line the hole with nopales, which is cactus, and build a hot fire. Once the coals were ready, they would prepare meats wrapped in cheesecloth and then wrapped in muslin. The different meats were beef, goat, pork, and turkey. Once they put the meat into the pit was covered with tin, and then dirt thrown over it until you could not see the steam from the heat. Then we would cook it for about 24 hours. Once that was done, we removed the tin, and then the meat, and our party started with either mariachi bands or a good mix of music on the stereo. Lots of dancing, food, drinks, and celebration. That was our family tradition. In December 25th, 1948, Elohio passed away on barely reaching Christmas morning. It was like right there at midnight. So he passed away. In December 1949, our mother Alice made a wreath out of branches and miscellaneous decorations since money was tight. She took it to her dad's grave. Every year after that, she would make sprays from Christmas tree branches and decorations. She would put one on each family headstone and close friends. As years gone by, more names were added to her list. I remember she would sadly say to me, I had to add another name to my list today. So this is up at Murrieta Cemetery, big changes, that's for sure. And it snowed. And this is the wreath she made, back in the mountains, yeah. And this is my mom in the 90s, and that's all her sprays she was making. After her dad passed away, Pat started to help get trees, cut the branches, and tie them together into sprays. Alice would decorate and put their names on each one. She was thoughtful when she made them and put on them what she knew they would like. When Alice needed more help, we all started to help her assemble the sprays she had done for many years. For every spray, we had great memories of each person. At that point, her list was about 45. This is the picture. This picture is with her 2 daughters, daughter-in-law, 2 granddaughters, and 2 great-granddaughters. I believe this is the last photo with all of us girls. So with my mom is Anna, who's right here. Our daughter, right here. And my mom, and this is my sister Loretta, Anna. That's her daughter, Lori, named after her mom, her grandma. Me, Ashley, with our granddaughter, Jessie, who's right there right now. And our sister-in-law, Barbara. But we don't consider her our sister-in-law, we consider her our sister. She's done a lot. So Mom, this is how she puts on her. In 2020, our mother passed away. Her children are continuing this tradition in memory of our mother. We added more names to her list, and friends have offered to come and help us. And our list now is up to 60. This December will make our 76th year tradition that my mom started. I want to say special thanks to my husband Pat, my sister Loretta, my brother Robert for recording this awesome video in 1991. We were cracking up over it. Our daughter Ashley for encouragement to do this today. My volunteers and members of the museum, Linda and Amy, for some research information, and to the rest of my family, to Anna for being out here from Idaho, and all the input that everybody has given me. So if there's any questions, Robert's right there. So if you have any questions, round table, or just curiosity, ask. And I hope you enjoy it.
Oh, it was very good.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
On where the abandoned mine was on Antelope, is it down by Scott Road? Where was it, do you know?
More by Antelope.
So,
Was it by
It's
the
a housing
college,
tract.
where the college is now?
no,
No.
so where you would find it today is Antelope Road. If you go up California Oaks,
Yes,
and before you get to Clinton Keith, you look to the right, there's a hogback hill there.
yes.
At the base of that hill, it's off Toulon and Providence, but the housing tract is built over where the mine was.
Oh, okay.
And when that housing tract kind of was in there, their property started settling, so
sure.
cracking foundations because they didn't realize
Yes.
the shafts underneath.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're hollow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a hard rock mine, so
Yes.
they had quite the added, so they followed the silica.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
They
then
took a
over
lot of
here
material out of it.
by Jeffrey, there's a little show box, shadow box that has the silica from the silica mine and just some pictures. And then the drill my grandpa used in the mines is right behind that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I just want to say that I knew your mom, of course, but you brought in so many people that I didn't know. I didn't know a lot about it, but it was very interesting, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I learned, I didn't know Walter Cooper sold him that property because I found all the receipts.
Wow.
I have like a stack of receipts of payment to Walter Cooper.
I knew that he had sold them some property, I wasn't sure where.
Yeah,
That's remarkable.
yeah.
And like I told Annette, except I was thinking it was all right. Freddie Sotello used to grade the roads around here, and when we built our house up on Calmia Street, it was all dirt road. And the county had him only going so far because we're on a non-maintained county road. We used to stop about at Keene's driveway, but once we put our house up there, he was always very gracious and always graded the road all the way up for us.
Maintained it for you.
Yes, it was great,
And then
until he quit.
you want to share the story about when a new border patrol agent pulled your family over.
Yeah, well, our area was known as the coyotes who transported the illegals, always ended up in our valley. And we had lots of fields around us, so they would always, when they're being chased, ended up in front of our house, in front of the, they would just, and when the coyotes would stop, the doors would fly open and they would run.
Whoa.
All women and children, babies. So, so going to high school, we had to go to Elsinore. So my mom had one of those kind of cars that always triggered the Border Patrol. And my mom always had curlers on or whatever, taking us to high school, right? Every time. And we had a carload of kids, a lot of blondies and, and all this stuff. Nope, pull us over. So, yeah. So she got mad one day and she said, so help me, if they get me again, I'm getting out. And then we're like, oh God. how embarrassing, you know. So it happened, my mom darted out of that car and met that border patrol before he can open his door. And she read him the riot act, I'm taking my kids, look at my car, look at that license plate, don't you ever do this again, and they never did.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. She's a badass.
I know, yeah, I'm surprised
So
she
tell
didn't.
them the rest of the story about what your mom and Connie's mom did.
They helped him. His mom helped the women, I mean, they were like,
yeah.
no clothes hardly,
Yeah.
no shoes,
Starving.
kids were hungry. So her mom and my mom would, you know, feed them and make calls to whoever their families were, they're wanting to go. And then they would meet up with the families to go into LA or something like that. Same with your mom, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I
Yeah.
knew she did a lot of things with Alice,
Mhm.
but I didn't.
And my mom
realize-
was interpreter for your mom when that happened up where they were.
Well, that I do remember a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the high school, when that happened, what year was, about what, year?
75.
Okay, so for me, I, living in Wildmore, Lake Elsinore, I did not go to Elsinore High School, I went to Temecula. But every morning for my 4 years, I graduated in 93, so you figure from what, the 70s to that time frame. I always remember, even after going to Mount San Sano College, I always remember, there was always one Border Patrol vehicle, always parked at that back
Jeez.
of
Really?
Lake Elsinore High School. I don't know what that T road is, that comes straight to the back of the high school. There was always one Border Patrol, they always parked over there. So you gotta figure that, all those years, like 20,
Yeah.
30
Well,
years.
and yet in the 50s, our family moved here in 1952, and my dad had the ranch where the goat ranch is now. And he always used what we call wetbacks, because they would come up across the border and apparently swim the river. And they were, you know, there was not a criminality there at all at that time. He would go down under the Washington Street Bridge where they camped and hire them. And the Border Patrol, as long as he was with them, he would take them into Elsinore to buy food and to have haircuts and stuff. They totally left him alone. And these people would come back year after year to my dad's ranch. But I remember the one year that they came and took them off of the hay trailer out in the field when they were told they had to. And everybody was crying.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for the help. You know, the citizens.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, Robert?
I remember once, you know, the Murrieta school here, the elementary school, we all went to Fallbrook, to Live Oak Park
Yep.
for an outing, remember that?
Oh, yeah.
All the women would get in their cars, and then all the kids would get in there, and they'd have a caravan there.
Yeah.
And they'd go up to 395 and get into Fallbrook, and all day we'd have that thing, you know, so one day we were coming home, and my mom was driving, and I was in the back for some reason, and, you know, she had a lady with her. And the Border Patrol always stopped all the cars on 395 where it is today. And I remember I was in the back, and I took a blanket and I threw it over me, and as I went through, the Border Patrol looked at Mom and said, is there anybody illegal here or something like that? And I was in the back, and I went, nobody back here but us Mexican, senor. My mother, Mom, just reached back and went, good thump on the head, you
Did
know?
you get it when you got home?
Clowning around.
And you also stated at one time the differences that you experienced in high school, how the Elsinore group kind of looked down at the Murrieta group.
Mhm. Yeah, when I was going, I don't know about Robert or Pam, but yeah, because we were more country, horses, ranches, so I was a horse person, I dressed like one. So you go into Elsinore with the Chilcana girls and the black community, the Chilcana girls, man, they didn't want nothing to do with me or any of us from Murrieta. They would call us podunk kids, they would say
Shit
everything to us
kickers.
because we were country people out here. So yeah, so that was a rude awakening going into a high school. Because we went from here, from kindergarten to 8th grade, and then from 8th grade into high school into Elsinore. So it was culture, but the black community actually were my saviors because we just hit it off so well, and they were my friends, and they warded off the Chilcana girls from kicking my butt.
That's the way it was for me in high school.
Yeah.
I ended up friends with a couple of the black girls. for whatever reason, because we were from Murrieta, so we were just the little hillbillies, I guess. And it was a culture shock. It really was.
Yeah. And we also went to school with Pechanga kids too. So the bus ride would be, we would go to Race Cafe in front of the bar, wait for the bus. They started at Pechanga, Temecula, and us. And by the time they got to us, there was no seats because all the Pechanga girls and everything. So we all had to stand up and ride all the way into Elsinore. So that made you do a lot of odd jobs so you can get your car and drive yourself.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Survival.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then going back to Annette speaking about Grandma Jessie and Elohim's wedding. I remember as growing up, just here and there, whenever Sound of Music came on, whether she was at Grandma and Grandpa Ray's and Alice's house across the field or at her house, she would cry. You could tell something going on with great grandma, and then grandma, and then she'd cry. And then come to find out, we found out because of the week-long celebration of her wedding, she said the scene of them getting married, that reminded the scene of how her and Elohim, it was big, the church was beautiful and big, that it was pretty much very similar. So she always would reminisce that.
And her favorite really movie was Old Gringo.
Yes.
Movie, because it was during the war, and she said that's what she went through on the hacienda, how they would ride the horses in on the hacienda inside and rob and take and everything. And so I don't know how many times we had to take her to the movies to see that movie, and then we finally bought her the movie, and she played it till it wore out because it just brought her back
Well,
memories.
of course, she can
growing up.
relate to it all.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. You raised your hand?
Oh, yeah, it's one of the black girls in the back.
Oh,
I must be hungry because I'm thinking about the barbecue pit. So is there a reason why it was underground opposed to under? Is that just the way it was? And then my other question is, like, you talked about how it was lined with cactus and stuff. Is that like, I mean, I don't know what's that for? Is it for the taste?
It's for the meat, so right, tell me if I'm wrong, but the ground, so it doesn't cave in. So it was like a lining around.
Okay.
And it adds a certain amount of moisture
Moisture.
and flavor
Yes.
to the meat.
Yeah,
It's a traditional Mexican barbecue.
yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
yeah,
It was
Flavor.
The fire department did the same thing for 75,
Yeah.
almost 75 years.
yeah.
And the meat tasted terrible once they changed.
Yeah, it's,
Everything the same.
Wow.
I don't eat it.
I love that. Thank you.
And Linda and Amy came in, and they're the ones that helped me with some of my research. Or if they found something, they would send it to me, so that really helps. I
That's
appreciate it,
awesome.
thanks.
Engineers were related, but we haven't figured it out yet.
So, well, thank you guys. And there's water, coffee, and of course our family's favorite pan dulce and the little molasses pigs. Every time my grandma was in a hospital or whatever, we always had to make sure she got her little pig because that was her favorite. So, and if not, there's little bags here if you want to take some home.
thank you.